Good morning and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. Today is Wednesday, February 24th, and the time now is 9:04. Notice for this public hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Monday, February 15th, and on Wednesday, February 17th, and second notice was given on February 22nd, and on Wednesday, and today is Wednesday, February 24th. The time now is 9:04. The committee will hear testimony on Bill 57-36 COR. This bill was introduced by the Governor of Guam, an act to appropriate funds within the Enhanced 911 Emergency Reporting System Fund from prior fiscal years. I'd like to acknowledge the senators, my colleagues that have joined me this morning. We have Senator Joanne Brown and Senator Tony Ada. Those testifying on behalf of Bill 57-36 COR will be recognized by myself. We have today Mr. Joey Manabusan from the Guam Fire Department. We have Paul Relinsky from the Fire Department. We have Jessica Toth. I hope I didn't murder your last name, Toth, okay? From the Office of the Attorney General. And we also have Charika Charglaf, correct? All right, from the Fire Department. Written testimonies shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopy, if you have any. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. Individuals will be allowed to present oral testimony only once. Once you are done, you may be asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. The four of you in the panel this morning are the only ones that are here to testify, so I'd ask you to just remain after your testimony. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or the nature of the agenda, which is Bill 57-36. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individuals testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the public hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and title for the record. We will now begin to discuss Bill 57-36. And I would begin with Mr. Manabusan first. Also like to recognize additional colleagues that are here. We have Senator Tello Tairagui, Senator Jim Moylan, and Senator Chris Duenas. Thank you. Mr. Manabusan, we'll begin with you, and then we'll work our way to your left. All right? Thank you.
Good morning and half a day, Senator San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Operations, Appropriations, Housing and Office of Finance and Budget. Thank you for giving the Guam Fire Department the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 57-36, an act to appropriate funds within the Enhanced 911 Emergency Reporting System Fund from prior fiscal year. I am Assistant Fire Chief Joey Manabusan and will read testimony prepared by Chief Michael Kanko, our Admin and 911 Bureau Chief. The Guam Fire Department is in full support of Bill number 57-36, which will appropriate the sum of $3,880,716 to the Guam Fire Department for the purposes set forth in Section 12304, Chapter 12, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated. Upon assuming office, Governor Leon Guerrero made a promise to return back monies transferred out of the Enhanced 911 funds during fiscal years 2014 to 2017. These transfers, based on the Public Utilities Commission's investigative report, were illegally transferred. During fiscal year 2019, the governor fulfilled her promise and returned the amount previously mentioned back into the E911 funds. With the governor's transfer, we hope with this legislature's favorable passing of Bill 57-36, the Guam Fire Department will be able to finally replace its current 911 system. As GFD had previously mentioned during numerous budget public hearings and media releases, replacement of the current system is critically needed. The 911 system currently in use was purchased in late 1999, and GFD began using in 2001. The system is antiquated and is technologically incapable to perform FCC and the National Emergency Number Association required standards. Should funding be made available, GFD intends on completing the procurement process of a next generation 911 or NG 911 system. The NG 911 system will provide the foundation and prove to be the nexus for emergency services as our island advances technologically and our people become more mobile, ultimately enabling us to provide assistance when 911 calls are made from all types of communication devices. NG 911 provides the ability to share voice and data-rich information that will improve first responders' ability to save lives, ensure responder safety, and protect property. In closing, Mr. Chairperson and members of this committee, the Guam Fire Department solicits your utmost support for Bill 57-36, which will provide funding for the complete upgrade of our 911 system, an upgrade that is critically needed so as to greatly improve our island citizens' access to requesting for emergency services and our emergency responders providing the emergency services requested more expeditiously and efficiently. Signed, Michael F. Uncanco, Acting Fire Chief. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rulinski, would you like to testify?
Sure. Yes. Good morning, Senators. My name is Paul Linsky. I just want to testify that I'm in support of this bill for the appropriations of our next generation 911 funding.
All right. Thank you. Ma'am?
Good morning. I'm also in support of this bill. Thank you.
And your name, if you can just state your name.
Jessica Toft.
All right, thank you. Ms. Chargloff?
I'm a supervisor in the 911 system, and all.
I want to make sure it's on first. There you go.
Good morning, Charika Chargaloff. I'm a supervisor within the 911 center, and all 27 of us dispatchers are in full support of this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Chargloff, because you're the supervisor, you're the right person we needed, in addition to Mr. Manibusan. Senators, we'll begin with Senator Brown, if you have, and we'll move to her right. Any comments or statements you'd like to make?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Not much of any comment. I think anything that's going to enhance the operations of 911 and the service that's being provided to our people. Because certainly when you're calling 911, you definitely need that assistance, and being able to upgrade the system, because it has been in place. The existing system has been in place for many years. As a matter of fact, the last time I was here at the legislature, Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero was instrumental in getting the additional $1 charged to every resident to be able to help fund the 911 system. And that's quite some time ago. We're talking over 20 plus years ago. So I certainly support this bill, and anything that's going to help our people, especially during a time when they're most in need, is a very good thing. So this bill will have my support. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Tello.
Situs Masi, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity, and good morning to you. Thank you for being here today to testify. I think we're all in favor of making sure that the funds are going there. Just wondering why, supposedly it's taken this long to get to GFD. Especially this administration's been in power for about 3 years now, and it still hasn't been put in. So I'm glad to see that there's something coming in there right now. Regarding the system itself, the status of the GFT procurement for the new generation emergency 911 reporting system, what is it? The status of that? I believe it's a next gen NEXGN. Okay. Oh, it's not on. Hold on one sec. Did you flip it on? Okay.
Test.
Also.
Thank you.
Thank
Our current system is operational, but the features are not compatible with national standards. So if you call 911, you will get through to 911, but all the features that are expected with national standards and FCC standards are not up to par. So by replacing it with the next generation 911 system, we will bring our system to a better place and our community with much better quality of life.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
Is the funds that's being restored back to the 911 system, it's strictly going to be used for that? There is the full amount is going to strictly go to the next generation or anything else? Do you have a plan? Okay, Mr. Charkov, thank you. Good morning.
Chief Micah and Kenko provided me with the information regarding the funds. The 3.8 million will, the funds that are allocated, it will cover the costs for the first 3 years. No? Can't have that.
I'm so sorry.
Can you tell me where you're from? I know your name.
I'm from the Office of the Attorney General of Guam,
Okay,
and I'm assigned to the procurement
Okay.
as their attorney for the under 5150. We are currently in the negotiations
I see.
phase of the procurement, so we can't discuss the price or the negotiations for the new system. Once an award is made, all of that will become public. The problem is we can't award until we have the funds.
but for the Attorney General's office, I do understand, the sensitivity with regards to this. However, the amount that's being appropriated here is 3.880716. So the
Yes.
amount is clear. So
Yes,
your
I
procurement,
believe- I believe the answer is yes. All of the money will go towards the procurement of the system.
Okay. And you do have a plan in place. You're just going through the negotiations right now with the procurement of these requests or,
Yes.
okay. Thank you, and thank you for that. Appreciate it. No, I do understand the sensitivity, so you're in the middle of procurement as well, so
Yes.
that's important. Well, other than that, I'm looking forward to getting it up and getting it going and, providing what it's needed for to protect our community. But as well, I want to ensure, too, that the 911 system for the deaf, the hearing impaired, is up and running. I was assured by Chief Stone that that is still going on. It's a number. You want to talk to that? Because yes, please.
So after that, the last oversight that we had, we did put in place a tablet that we've pushed out to the public for the hearing impaired to go ahead and text a certain number so we can get it up there at the 911 center.
And Paul, can you tell me that number again so the people listening audience are listening?
I don't have it offhand. Cherika could probably get you that number. It's a 3-digit, so we were working on it with the telco companies on the island, and it was something maybe 311. I can get that for you after the
Okay,
press
well,
conference.
it's not just for my sake, it's for
Is
the
it
public.
311? No. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, we
so
can get it out there. We can get it to you.
somebody can text somebody real quick before this hearing ends. I'd like to make an announcement out there for the listening audience, for those, to let other people or their family members know that this is an option for them. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's something we should all know by heart,
Yes.
for individuals. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you to the Attorney General's office for being here too, clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taidu. Senator Moylan, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to make on this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. Okay, all goes well with this bill. It passes, right? Are you expected, have you been told you'll receive the full amount into that account, or are you going to be piecemealed? Do you know if you're going to get the total amount at one time for this purpose of this bill, or are you going to get
The amount will be transferred into the account, which will be, allow us to use the monies towards the improving our 911 system. We're changing out the system, sir, yes.
So one lump sum, it's not going to be, oh, you get $1 million this time, $1 million
Yes, we have
next
to
time.
go through this whole process so that it can be accessible, so that we can start completing the process.
Okay. I mean, that's good news because that would help procurement process.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay. All goes well, the contract's in place. What's your timeline then? You got your bidder, you liked it, signed the contract. What's our timeline?
As soon as it's completed, then we can give all the specifics on, because that's going to be dependent on the contractors and all the negotiations. So we cannot even discuss at this point because we don't have that yet until it's completed.
The RFP was publicly issued, and it's public, and it does contain a timeline of the intended, what we've requested.
Do you recall?
They
Okay.
have the RFP.
Thank you.
Oh, what page was that? You should know what page it's on.
What was your question specifically, Senator Moylan? So that the bill is to give them 3.8 million. And
Right.
whatever's ongoing in negotiation is beyond this body. Until it's all settled legally, whatever needs to come out will come out. And it also identifies in the bill that it'll be until it's completely used up.
Okay. Understood, Mr. Chairman. I'm just hoping that they do receive the money per the law once we pass, and that it's implemented on as soon as possible. So I just want to code them
So-
to the deadline.
So according to our RFP, this, and I quote, "The scheduled timeline submitted with the offeror's proposal for the design and installation phase of the services in this RFP shall be finalized and become part of the terms of the contract after award."
Okay.
So it's after the award, then we can come up with that actual timeframe, sir.
Okay, I appreciate that. Will this system also help? So example, I'm the guy I call 911. We got our new next gen going on in there. It involves the coordination of not just the fire department, but the police department and maybe Department of Corrections, or maybe Department CQA as well. Or maybe there's an instance down at Port Authority, peace officers. Would this system allow you to also
I cannot provide all the specifics, but I can say that the capabilities are right in line of what you're discussing. We'll be able to do communications without having to give any specifics. I can say that next generation 911 systems are capable of doing what you're discussing and so much more. It's really modern, up to date. The technology today, Senator, it's really amazing. So we can send videos to smartphones, to devices. So the capabilities and the technology today is just amazing. So yes, we can do what you're saying without having to break any rules about any contracts or whatever. Yes.
Okay, it is important, right? Like,
Yes,
if
yes,
there's-
sir, it is.
If there's
It really
a
is.
riot
Yeah.
up at DOC and
Yeah.
there's burning, and,
Yes.
how do we communicate? How does that work now? Do we have a working system that can do that?
We don't have that right now. We don't have that capability right now. But if you want to see systems that are out there, just Google NG 911, and a lot of communities out there, they're taking full advantage of the capabilities that technology has to offer today. It's really amazing. Yes.
So right now, if I worked at Department of Corrections, there's a fire and I got to call GPD or Guam Fire Department. Basically, I'll use my cell phone to call you up.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean, even a caller could, if we use those features, you can really take a video of what's going on, and in real time, our 911 center will be knowing what's going on. They can patch that over to our responders, and they will know what they're dealing with before they even get there. That type of technology is something that we can really use today. I mean, and I'll tell you what we do today, maybe with other resources that we have available that's for free. like WhatsApp. We take full advantage of that. And so the technology today is just amazing. So long overdue, and we're looking forward to this upgrade.
I'm happy for you guys and the safety of the island. Just one last statement. If by chance you ever see somebody touch your 911 funds again, will you be able to say, you know, Senator, it used to have 1 million and now there's only 200,000 and I didn't spend a dime of that? Will you be able to report that to us so we can take proper action?
I can safely say that it ain't going to happen again. Yes, sir.
Thank
I
you.
mean, this made national news, and so yeah, it's something that it won't happen again.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, panel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Senator Duenas, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to make on this bill?
Jesus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly rise in support of Bill 5736. I think we all understand the importance and the need for this emergency response to go forward. I have a question for Chief Stone. Chief, welcome. Did you make this request as part of your 2019 budget request?
Sir, I'm not too sure if Chief Stone did make that as part of our request. I can get back with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fiscal year 20, part of the budget request for this to be
Are you talking about the next generation 911?
correct, sir? For this amount to be transferred, was it part of your fiscal year 19 budget request?
1 second.
Sorry, I have a behind the scenes. According to the acting fire chief, Chief Maga'hågan, no, we did not make the request because we had not determined the cost yet.
According to this bill, ma'am, and with all due respect to fire, the way this bill reads is the restoration of funds to the account. It has nothing to do with procurement. It has nothing to do with the funds availability for procurement, because that's going to be my next question to Ms. Toff. What I'm asking the representatives from fire is, did they make this transfer a part of their fiscal year 19 budget request?
According to Chief Maga'hågan, the funds were already transferred. We're here today for authorization to utilize those funds.
Okay. But, ma'am, the budget is appropriation. The Budget Act is an appropriation. So was there a request in fiscal year 2019 for an appropriation of this amount so it would have already been in the account during fiscal year 19?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. Was there a request in fiscal year 20 on the Budget Act for this amount?
No, sir, we did not.
Is there a request currently under fiscal year 21 for this amount?
No, there is not.
So we needed a bill to appropriate this. We didn't request it in our budget. I mean, I've been ahead of a
sir.
department. I know if I need money and I need budget authority, the first place I go is the Budget Act. I mean, just a simple question. I mean, I'm going to vote for the bill. I just wanted to know the history and the record on the request for the appropriation.
And that was answered. No.
Okay. Ms. Toff, I have a question for you. Thank you and welcome. So as you discussed that there should be careful on the discussion of the procurement for the E911 system as it is currently. The way I read the testimony, which I'm very much in support of, is that this will allow for this procurement going forward. Was this procurement issued subject to fund availability, or was there the cash behind it for the current procurement?
The law requires that the RFP be issued subject to available funds.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because in the simple reading of this bill, of the testimony, you would think that it was a requirement, but so that the public that's listening out there and people, for for them to be comfortable with the procurement is that it is subject to fund availability, which means when award goes forward and everything else, then that's the time that they would be utilizing these funds, correct? Sometimes questions are asked for the benefit of our public and our listening audience.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, so for clarity, this RFP was issued subject to fund availability, and this will go to backfill whatever requirements are in terms of when the procurement is complete and you're going to notice of award.
Yes, and the RFP states that.
Right on. Okay, Sus Masi, Ms. Toft, and to the fire folks for your testimony. Yes, sir.
Sir, okay, I just got a reply from Chief Nkenko. Yes, this is in our budget request.
Excuse me?
This is also in our budget request.
For
Yes, it
current
is.
fiscal year?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so this,
According to Chief Nkenko.
so this bill is designed now to expedite that process but it wasn't in fiscal year 19 and it wasn't in fiscal year 20.
That is correct.
Okay, so
And then
this,
with this appropriation, with this approval, this will help, this will pay for it, and we can complete the whole, the contracts and approval process.
no, that's good news, sir. So in essence, what we're looking at here is because we're currently going to debate the current fiscal year budget, so this bill is coming down so that we can go ahead and move that money prior to the fiscal year. Because I'm glad that you requested it in the fiscal year budget.
Yes.
I would have hoped that it would have been part of 19 and 20, you know, because a lot of the discussion surrounding the procurement was a funding issue.
Yes.
And so here we are now in, you know, the year of 2021.
Yeah.
2021 and just starting, and we're got an RFP out there subject to fund availability, but that funding could have been there 2 fiscal years ago.
Yes.
So that was the purpose for my question. So and I know Chief Mike very well, and I'm glad that you got that message, and I'm glad it was part of this fiscal year, and I'm glad this bill is on the table, and you certainly have my full support. And as it hits the floor, I will be voting on it. Sus Masi, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Ada, do you have any comments or questions you'd like to pose to the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do. Chief, is this, on your RFP, is this listed as a purchase or a lease?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
On your RFP, is this a purchase or a lease? Did you put out an RFP for lease of a 911 system or
Yeah,
purchase?
just one moment.
A full outright purchase of the system?
It's a lease to own, sir. Lease to own.
It's a lease to own?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so with the maintenance and technology, and you mentioned it up right when you first spoke, was the technology, how technology changes constantly throughout years. Does this have a maintenance agreement also attached to it that also includes updates and
Yes, sir.
for the
Yes.
technological part of it? That's
Yes.
great. And how long in the RFP was the maintenance agreement?
We won't know all of that until the award contract is completed.
So you guys didn't put that out in your RFP for example, for the duration of the lease period, that the maintenance will be included with as part of the price?
Ms. Toft, Ms. Toth, would you like to speak to that? I see you signaling. You're the Attorney General office. You're the attorney. Please speak.
Thank you. The RFP states up to 5 years.
So so it says up to 5 years, we didn't say for 5 years?
Up to 5 years.
Yeah, and how long do we look at purchasing? And so that's what I'm trying to get to, right? Is because I lease a vehicle, I got the maintenance agreement with it for the entire 5 years, not up to 5 years. So is it going to be just?
The RFP allows for a 1-year installation period, up to 1 year for installation, 2 years, another 2 years for maintenance, and then possible extensions of 1 year each for another 2 years. And that's in case the system isn't good.
So
You don't
then,
want to lock yourself into a contract for a long period of time.
so on the RFP, on the lease to own, how many years are we taking this out for to pay off the system for it to become government owned?
The RFP states that there's up to 5 years for the maintenance contract, and then at the end of the 5 years, or any time during the contract, the purchase of the system would be at the cost of the system, at the fair market value.
I see.
If the option to purchase is exercised. It's an option.
It's an option. Okay, that's great. That's good to hear. So that anything goes wrong, then you can get away from that option to purchase.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Well, I'm glad that finally we're gonna do something with our 911 system, and hopefully you guys will be able to get this process on the road and let it come to fruition. You have our full support, at least my full support on it, Chief. Thank you, Ms. Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you, my colleagues, for your questions and your concerns. In the packet, you'll find comments from BBMR, from the Governor's Office, and from the Office of Finance. The funds is basically to restore what was taken from the fire department. That's number one. Number two, my office has been in contact with your chief, and we're going to work it so that we make sure that the funds that go into the program is available for the fire department to use, to make sure you fulfill, your requirements. And then from there, we'll move from there. I think all the questions were answered. That being said, there's no further testimony. The committee will continue to receive testimonies from any of the audience, and please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Augustine at gmail.com, or to my office located at Rand Care Building, second floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tumuning, Guam. Since Marty for your attendance. Yes, Mr. Relinsky, you wanted to make a statement?
Yeah, I just got one more comment in reference to Senator Tadigui's question. Ma'am, the number is 322. So if anybody texts through SMS 322, that would directly go to our 911 center. It's not set up for WhatsApp, but I do have the number for the WhatsApp if they want to text it, and I could say that right now. 727-9110 is the WhatsApp text number. But it's 322, so if anybody texts through SMS 322, they will get their message sent up to the 911 center on their tablet up there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Relinsky. Jesus Masi for attending and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. This public hearing on Bill 57-36 COR is now adjourned. It is now 9:37. Thank you. We will begin in 5 minutes. Thank you, panels. You can leave. In 5 minutes, we will begin with Bill 37-36, introduced by Senator Brown. In 5 minutes. Thank you. Good morning. Half a day, the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. Today is Wednesday, February 24th. The time now is 9:45. Notice for this public hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Monday, February 15, and February 17, and February 22nd. Today is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2021, and the time now is 9:45. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on bills 37-36 COR introduced by Senator Joanne Brown, an act to amend section 4101A1 of Article 1 and to add new section 4203.4 to Article 2, both of Chapter 4, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the prohibition of employment in the government of Guam for individuals convicted of official misconduct under the provisions of 9 Guam Code Annotated, section 49.9. I'd like to acknowledge the senators, my colleagues that have joined me today. We have Speaker Therese Terlahi. We have Majority Leader Senator Delina Nelson. We have the Minority Leader also, Senator Jim Moylan. We have the author of the bill, Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Untitled, Senator Duenas, and Senator Tony Ada. The conduct of this public hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying, which we have none, but if there's any written testimony, it should be submitted to my office, and individuals will be allowed to present. We can skip that. I would ask that personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individuals testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the public hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on, that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. We now begin to discuss Bill 37-36 COR, and there is no one to testify, but we will begin with Senator Brown. If you can give your opening statements, and then we can move from there for any of our colleagues to speak on this bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do have testimony that was forwarded to my office, but I'll make sure after this hearing that it's forwarded to you for your official records of the committee report. In the introduction of Bill 3736, Mr. Chairman, and to my fellow colleagues that are here, the primary reason that I introduced this bill is it came to light that there was a loophole in our existing law with regards to the rehiring of individuals that have been not just charged, but actually have either pleaded to or convicted of official misconduct. And for the record, I do want to read what official misconduct is, what exactly is involved with regards to official misconduct. And it's in 9 GCA. Official misconduct defined and punished. A public servant commits a misdemeanor if, with the intent to benefit himself or another person, or to harm another person, or to deprive another person of a benefit. He commits an act relating to his office, but constituting an unauthorized exercise of his official functions, knowing that such act is unauthorized, or he knowingly refrains from performing a duty which is imposed upon him by law, or is clearly inherent in the nature of his office. You know, Mr. Chairman, we often hear the issue that we are not opening the opportunity for second chances. And I think there's some issues, certainly, where offenses have been made that perhaps second chances would be appropriate. But when someone actually pleads to or is convicted of official misconduct, this involves a public official that's in a position of responsibility and in a position of trust in our government. And while I recognize in the community most people believe that the elected officials, those of us that are very visible, represent that. We have 11,000+ other employees in the government of Guam, and I'm very much of the position that everyone that works for the people of Guam, in the government of Guam, are public servants, and that we have to be held to a higher standard. When an individual violates that trust, when they've been given that opportunity and they violate that trust against our community, to be allowed to come back into the government again, when there are so many other people in our community that are qualified and that have not even had a first chance to apply and be considered for a position. Instead of enhancing the standards of performance and the expectation of the government, and that's what I see and hear with people in our community, I think it's an offense to the community. It's an expectation that we should have that individuals that work for the government are responsible individuals, that they're there to perform their duties. But when someone has been given that opportunity, particularly in cases of law enforcement, where someone has sworn to oath that they are going to uphold their duties and responsibilities of their respective job, and they violate that, it's offensive. And I think it's very much offensive to the public. A lot has been made of a recent situation at the Port Authority of Guam, of which I used to be the general manager, and believe that that's the reason for this. I think that particular incident just pointed and brought to light that there's a loophole in our law. And if we're going to put these type of standards in our law, such as official misconduct, it's defined, it exists. I'm not the author of it. It's been there for many, many, many years. That we should have that expectation. I think it's very discouraging, and it doesn't provide any reason for people not to violate the law, because they can go ahead and do it, and then they get rewarded for it. And that's the message I'm seeing in our community. And I don't think that's the right message. I don't think that's a good and responsible message that we need to send to our community or our young people coming up, where we tell them to work hard, be educated, be responsible, and you will do well in life. Because when you see others that have, in this particular case, I mean, to actually get convicted or plead to official misconduct, that's a process. That doesn't just happen on an accusation. Most employees, as we find in the government, will immediately resign before any actions taken further against them, unless it's something, such as particularly in the case of law enforcement, where these charges are made, just in addition, and not just, you're just not going through the process of administrative adverse action against an employee. It's very common practice in the government, if you violate the standards in the government, to simply resign and then, lay low for a little while and then pop up down the road. And we're finding cases where the government has paid out money, has made settlements perhaps, and then these individuals are hired back into the government when they've cost the people of Guam substantial amounts of money. And again, I don't think that's right. I think as some of these issues are coming to light, especially with regards to government settlements, these things should not be private. At least that's what the Attorney General recently opined, that these settlements regarding public funds should not be kept confidential, because they're being kept confidential from our people that ultimately are paying for this. I don't think this is anything favorable in terms of having to deal with these type of issues. But it's a reality that we are faced as a community, and we're finding that because of what has happened, what is happening in our government, individuals that have violated the public trust with regards to the position that they have already been given, a position which they've already occupied, and a position within which they should be responsible in the service that they are performing for the people of Guam. They've violated that trust, so much so that they've either pled guilty to it or they've been convicted of it. And I think in those circumstances and under those circumstances, individuals that fall into this category of official misconduct should not be allowed to be reemployed in the government. Mr. Chairman, when you get hired in the government of Guam, and much is said about the merit system, of course, sometimes having run a government agency for almost half of my government career, I sometimes wonder the validity of that and how that process works sometimes. But we always hope that the focus and the agenda is to improve ourselves, is to improve the quality of service that we're providing, and to ensure that the individuals that are entrusted with these responsibilities are performing to their utmost. It's the hope that it's a deterrent, if anything else, a deterrent for anyone who's considering going down the wrong road, that maybe they need to think twice, 3 times, 4 times as to whether or not they should commit the actions that they are thinking about committing that may be of offense to the people and may be an illegal activity. In most cases, the action being engaged in is an illegal activity. I think our people deserve more. Our people expect more. At least that's what I see and hear out there. And I've been at this many, many, many years, longer than anyone else in this room. And I think that's what we should strive for. We should strive for better standards and better performance and better expectation from all our public officials. So far, Mr. Chairman, those are my comments, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to close after my other colleagues have relayed their thoughts and sentiments with regards to this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Speaker, do you have any comments you'd like to make on this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank the sponsor of the bill. It's quite disturbing that this bill actually had to be introduced. I'm rereading comments that were made by the Attorney General in a statement that the Office of the Attorney General issued. And they said that under Guam law, criminal convictions are an automatic bar to government employment only in limited cases. For example, there's a blanket prohibition from hiring a person convicted for a sex offense. A person convicted of family violence cannot hold an elected public office, be appointed a director, or hold a supervisory position, or be a peace officer. I'm grateful that those provisions are in statute, Mr. Chair. But when it comes to official misconduct, according to the Attorney General, the rules and regs allow that prior criminal convictions, including convictions for misdemeanor offenses, can be considered by directors when making hiring decisions. When an applicant has a less than 7-year-old conviction for a crime, the directors have discretion to suspend, remove, or accept their application into government service. You know, I think that that's an important discretion exercised by the directors, Mr. Chair, because, you know, when some people talk about second chances, but if you're less than 7 years convicted of a crime, and a crime such as smuggling contraband into a prison that you were supposed to protect, I just think it's very serious, Mr. Chair, and you know, that some time, at the very minimum, time should pass between your conviction for such an offense and your rehiring into the government of Guam, especially, for example, at the Port Authority of Guam, where we're talking about, you know, drugs coming into Guam. I think it's just a dangerous setup, Mr. Chair, for you know, when we're supposed to be showing to the people of Guam that we're doing our utmost to protect them, that, you know, we're going to allow this type of hiring to occur there. The example I'm talking about is this person pled guilty to official misconduct as a misdemeanor in August 2019, not too long ago, Mr. Chair, for his role in the smuggling of methamphetamine and other contraband into the island's prison. Just last month, just that recently, we saw other persons accused of the same crime at the same time being sentenced in the Superior Court of Guam. That's how recent this behavior occurred. And this, you know, we're talking about from the, you know, facts that came out from that case, that text messages were sent between May and the end of July 2017 between maximum security inmate Sean Paul Johnson and Rosalind, in which they communicated back and forth about bringing contraband into DOC and when shakedowns were going to occur. And they were talking about methamphetamine. And so again, in this example, you know, we talk about hiring back into the government of Guam. Should we give them a second chance? Well, we're talking about just, you know, where someone else was just sentenced a month ago in the same activity. And we're talking about maintenance at the Port Authority of Guam, where we are trying to shore up customs to be able to get in there and inspect when we know that they are not. We're trying to shore up all of our borders to ensure that we are not going to have a methamphetamine or a continued methamphetamine, coming into Guam. And I just think that that is such a compelling reason that discretion should have been used in this case to not allow even a chance of that to happen. And I just think our borders, we need to take extra precautions at our borders. And, as for all misdemeanors and all hiring of the government of Guam, if we can't trust the directors to use their discretion, then we have to pass bills like this, where we remove all the discretion. But, Mr. Chair, I would think that discretion could have been exercised in a better way in this one example, at the very least. But otherwise, I support the bill, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd ask the majority leader and then be followed by the minority leader, and then we'll go backwards. Senator Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess just a question for the sponsor of the bill. If this bill should pass, do you think that it would be an unfair or an inequitable requirement for private businesses to carry this burden and the government shouldn't? I just kind of want to see how this bill will impact our whole island community in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If you want me to, I'll go ahead and respond
Yes.
to the question by
Yes, please.
Senator Nelson. Thank you very much. I don't look at it as a question of an unfair burden. I look at it as an expectation that the government exists to serve the people. We do it in different capacities, be it healthcare, education, all the way down to our bus drivers that take our children to school every day. We perform a public service. And when an individual has already been given the opportunities, keep in mind the misdemeanor of this official misconduct issue applies to public servants. So you're talking about an individual or individuals that have already been hired by the government of Guam. Regardless of what position that they've been hired to, they have a responsibility to execute their duties. And when they violate that, violate it all the way to either pleading guilty to or being convicted of official misconduct. That's pretty serious. And I don't believe that the government that is paid for by the taxpayers' dollars should be giving the opportunity once again for such an individual to come back again to serve the public. So you might look at it as a public sector versus a private sector issue. I look at it as what is the role of the government, and the role of the government is to take care of and support the public with regards to the service that we provide in regard to the funding that the ratepayers and the taxpayers of Guam provide. They should not be offended by the public servants that are supposed to be serving them. So that's my response with regards to this particular issue of allowing someone who's been convicted or pled to official misconduct being rehired in the government.
Did that suffice, Senator Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Moylan, do you have any comments or questions you'd like to pose to the author or just in reference to the bill?
Just in reference to the bill, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, like you back in the when we were not that old but a little younger, when you were at the Guam Police Department and I was at Department of Corrections, we always we were concerned also with the good cop, bad cop, or good correction officer or bad correction officer. But it's one thing when we're providing the public safety responsibilities that we do for the community, and then there's another thing wondering if the guy really has your back, or is he part of this ring going on and causing destruction to our agencies that provide public safety and rehabilitation. I remember feeling when I going into Department of Corrections after getting pat down and just wondering if the guy next to me was truly as sincere and wanting to do his correct job, or was he bringing in stuff that would cause me harm and cause other inmates harm too. And just like at the Guam Police Department as well, you know, we're locked and loaded and we're ready to go and we're ready to perform our duties, but we can't have these things happen. And then to see somebody in a situation where official misconduct was the ruling, and then to have them come back in somewhere else that again affects their other employees, it's quite dangerous. So I'm especially concerned about this, and I'm thankful for the author for introducing the bill. And I think it's also very important of what we're talking about today, that corruption exists, and corruption will, until we put our foot down and say, no, but you can't do it while serving the public. And that's truly dangerous. Dangerous for the current employees and dangerous for the duties that they're supposed to perform and protect the public. And I think we should be transparent, knowing what's going on in our community. And if we had to make this bill to ensure that for the safety of the employees and for the safety of the island, then I'm all in favor of it. So I thank the author again for this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Senator Tello, Tadigui, you have any comments on the bill or question for the author?
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'd like to thank the author of this legislation. It was, as I was listening to the good speaker speak on the comments made by the Attorney General's office, and, it just, the discretion part that was utilized, the 7 years, certain time. I mean, these are things that we really need to be put into consideration as we move forward. But one of the other things I've always had a question is, what is the standards for the federal government when it comes to the federal hires? They have a high standard that they require for their individuals and looking in their application. So I'm curious to do some more research on that, and because of it's very important, Mr. Chair. I think earlier I wanted to mention, we were talking about, GPD, fire, places of, the public safety, but what about our children? I remember one incident a while ago about a bus driver who was convicted of, selling drugs, methamphetamine, and this is the individuals that drive our children to school. Are we supposed to, if you asked a parent that the bus driver that's going to be taking your child to school was convicted of selling drugs or even taking drugs, do you think that parent is going to want that same person, regardless how many years ago it was, to actually take their child to school? I think that there is a responsibility that we have to the community when it comes to something like this. I believe in second chances, and I believe in second chances for individuals after they have proven themselves to be, rid of any wrongdoings or just rehabilitated. It's important. But in areas where you lose the people's trust in public safety, in dealing with taking our children to school, once you lose your trust, I don't think it should be gained back. It doesn't mean that I don't think they should be given another job in another field of work. Not at all. But in areas that protect our ports, areas that protect our children, yes, I do believe that. We should not allow them. They lost their trust in the people. So I greatly appreciate this legislation. Look forward to looking at like I said, the federal side when it comes to hiring as we move forward. And I thank you for this legislation. Let's take the discretion away from these directors and don't put them in a predicament. Do it for them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tadigui. Senator Duenas, do you have any comments on the bill or questions for the author?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few comments. I would like to thank the author of the bill in 3736. And much like the comments of our good speaker along those lines, I really think that this is a necessary bill. You know, Mr. Chairman, I was asked after the Port Authority hearing where we were discussing the drug-free workplace, other issues with the management and the board. You know, I was asked by several members when I was doing my daily duties in the community, you know, Chris, do you believe in second chances? And I said, absolutely, I believe in second chances. I've been a director for several agencies, and there were times when second chances were merited, much like the retiring speaker, in areas where it didn't involve the direct issues that we, you know, have zero tolerance policies for. Much like my good friend Senator Moreland said, you know, in law enforcement, you have zero tolerance. You have issues that when it relates to drugs and other things that basically are non-negotiables. Second chances, as my good friend Senator Titlegy said, are even things that we learn when we're children and we're being reared by our parents. We have to regain our trust. We have to regain our credibility, even just with our parents. We're taught that from a young age. So yes, second chances are important. But as the author of the bill said as well, when we're talking about tax dollars, when we're talking about government resources, when we're talking about spending our people's money, ratepayers' money, there's an expectation. One of my responses to my good friends that were asking me if I believed in second chances, I said, how many chances have you had in places of employment, perhaps in the government or others, that you've done everything by the book? You've gone to school, you've qualified, you did your training, and you're just asking for your first chance. And so it's in that vein, Mr. Chairman, and to the good author of the bill, that I think this is right. I think this is just. And in closing, I have to say that I'm a little surprised, looking out in front of me, that there is no one here to testify against this bill. Perhaps that's a way of saying, we understand what you're doing. There is a place and a time for second chances, but with our precious government resources, our hard-earned tax dollars that go to fund this government, we believe that this is a fair and a just standard. So once again, Mr. Chairman, Sidus Masi, for the opportunity to express my support for Bill 3736.
Thank you, Senator Joanne. Senator Ada?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank my colleague for introducing this piece of legislation for our consideration. And, you know, my colleague there, Senator Duenas, had mentioned, you know, folks that are not here to testify, and I was just asking the good chairman with Civil Service Commission or Department of Labor, Department of Administration, you know, I was hoping those folks would be here. Probably one question for the author, my colleague, Senator Brown, maybe do we know like how many folks this bill, you know, or how many people have a conviction for official misconduct, and will such a record have automatic termination for them, or would this be prospective moving forward should this bill pass into law?
Thank you very much, Senator Ada. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to respond to Senator Ada's question. I don't have the statistics with regards to official misconduct currently in the government, but I do know that this is not the first time this incident has occurred in the government. We've had individuals that have worked in the government in a very similar capacity to the case that was discussed by our good speaker. Very same incident that were rehired again back in the government. So I don't have that statistic. And again, I know that issue is in the current bill to be reviewed. I know legal did provide a revised version. I want to very much, I guess the way to address your question, Senator Ada, is very much address a loophole that I don't think most of us, I certainly was not aware that this loophole existed in the government at all until this situation, most recent. Again, it's not intended, even though I know a lot of focus has been placed on the individual that was hired at the Port Authority. But what it did bring to light is a loophole in the law that I think many of us were surprised existed. When members of our public see these circumstances occurring, I'm sure just like us, they're raising their eyebrow going, how did this happen? So we're certainly opening to debate that issue, because I know they can argue that if you're currently in the capacity and you're classified already, that you cannot be removed. That may be a legal argument that is brought forth, but I think it was important to put this stand, a very strong stand, in what I see as an erosion in the quality and expectation of public servants. And so that's certainly the reason why that language was put in the bill, and certainly why I'm advocating for this loophole to be closed with regards to individuals that have either pled to or have been convicted of official misconduct in their respective government capacity to which they have been hired previously to serve.
Thank you to my colleague for that. And Mr. Chairman, I look forward for the markups on this legislation, so we can have this placed onto the session agenda in our next session. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ada. Senator Brown, if you can close, and then I'll make the closing comments. It won't be a question to you.
I appreciate, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for your indulgence, and thank you to my colleagues for your support with regards to this. I know there's very much a tendency to, we are a small community, and there's very much a tendency to want to make all of these issues, all about personality politics and the back and forth that goes on, and the things we talk about, gossip about, and chuckle about. But I really think this is a very serious issue with regards to performance of public officials. And certainly, we've been in office and we've worked in different capacities in the government over the years. And what I'm finding is that while the public sees us, sees our face, perhaps knows our names, the same standard of expectation should exist within the entire government of Guam, from the top to the bottom, in the middle, and back up again. Because I very much feel, and I think a lot of our residents out there have that expectation. In the very short time I've been back in office of a month and a half after, many, many years of not being in this session hall, I'm reminded how many of our people, end up calling senators because they need assistance with government agencies, because they don't feel their concerns are being heard, or their issues that they're bringing forth are not being responded to, or the questions that they have are not being answered by the very government that is supposed to be here to assist and facilitate for them. So they come to us, the senators, because they say, I'm not getting the response I need from land, particularly lately. I've got 3 cases just in the last week and a half about land management. I'm sure my colleagues here are experiencing in other cases, because our people want answers, want direction, want feedback, but they're not able to get it, and they come to us to try and assist them, even though it's not part of our duties as legislators, but an expectation that can we assist in facilitating, because they expect a service. And I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. A lot of things back in the day, being hired in the government of Guam was like the golden prize. If you could get that Gov Guam job, you were hired, you were set for life. You just hang around long enough and you retire, and life is good. And I just think we need to expect more than that. And as a community, we need to expect more than that, because that's the feedback I'm getting from the people that approach me. Either they make a formal appointment or they stop by my door unexpected. There's an expectation that the government should perform. And we've all had to sit and listen to the frustration of our people complaining to us either because they're not getting the assistance and they have no means of getting a response that they need, because a government official on the other end perhaps is not giving them that type of assistance. And what can they do about it? There's that sense of helplessness, especially if it's something they really need to take care of their family, take care of a legal issue with the government, you know, make sure their maps get filed or whatever the case may be that they need assistance with. And there's an expectation that those that are entrusted with these responsibilities to serve the public, particularly if they are in critical positions, positions of importance to our community, that they have that power and authority. I mean, of course, at the top level, you can look at those in law enforcement because, you know, they have that power. They have the power to arrest us. They have the power to throw us in jail and until we get before a court. They can control our movements. We have an expectation that they're above board, that they are practicing their job responsibly and they're not violating that trust of the public. But what we are finding lately, that is not the case. I mean, we're hearing of circumstances in our government where those very public servants are violating that trust. And I'm putting this forth more, Mr. Chair, as a deterrent because this loophole does exist, because the Attorney General, when he opined on this issue, brought to light that this loophole existed. It was something that I felt very much we needed to address, because I don't think our people should be offended by the actions of their public servants and have to put up with it. I don't think they should be offended by that. And I want to see very much that this is a deterrent for any current public official working in our government to be responsible with regards to their actions and what they do in their job, and keep that in mind at the forefront of their thinking before they go down the wrong path, especially when they do something that's harmful to others, to their co-workers, as you know, my good colleague, Senator Moylan had mentioned, himself having served in this capacity, where his own health and welfare, the safety of himself and his fellow co-workers, every day was a moment of challenge. But when you can't depend on your own to be responsible and to do the right thing, then by all means, we as policymakers should interject and put this into law so that we can prohibit this from happening again in the future. I wanted to just read a very brief comment in closing of another public official that was involved in this most recent incident, not partaking in it, but a co-worker. And this individual publicly stated, "I think when you had an opportunity in the government to work and you violate that trust, right? Regardless of whatever job, official misconduct, you did it while working in your position while employed in the government. I don't believe personally you deserve a second chance at that. Other jobs, but not for the government." And I think that's a common sentiment, at least I've seen and heard out there, Mr. Chairman, with regards to the members of our community. Every time our people are violated, every time our people are unsafe, every time a crime is committed against any member of our community, be it our children, our elderly, we shouldn't turn a blind eye to that. We should make sure that public servants that have been hired to serve this community are being responsible and doing their job and taking out their job in a responsible manner. And if they violate that trust that has been granted by our people, then no, they should not be allowed to come back and supposedly serve the public again when their initial judgment in that position of responsibility was wrong. There are other opportunities, yes. As children, we learn from our parents. We all make mistakes. It's a question of the degree of that mistake. But when your level of mistake rises to official misconduct, and you've either pled to it or you've been convicted of it, I think based just on that basis, an individual who has violated that trust at this level should not be allowed to come back and misuse or abuse the public resources or the public trust of our people. And with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for putting this bill up for public hearing and allowing me the opportunity to comment on this bill. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much to my colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Brown, for your closing. I appreciate your comments. The committee will conclude this public hearing. The committee will continue to receive testimonies. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing and submit it via email to Senator Agustin@gmail.com or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tamuning, Guam. Zeus Masi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. This public hearing on Bill 37-36 UR is now adjourned. It is 10:25. Please have a nice and safe day.